We have been in the Wairarapa region a bit tonight, and we're going to head back there now to Tuturumuri School. Apologies for a bad dad joke, but what is this? Roll call at Tuturumuri. They've got no students, no roll call is required. They're still open though, hopefully southeast of Matambara in the southern Wairarapa, quite away from anywhere, including homes with children. So what happens in that situation? How long does a school sit empty before it closes? The Ministry is funding it still with an operations grant of $63,000 per annum, of which $19,000 has already been paid this year. The school thought they would have up to 6 children this year, but none came. So there's been community consultation meetings, and the Ministry will advise the Minister in March. This is a bigger issue than one school though, as changes in land use and urbanisation see fewer and fewer children in some of our rural communities. But Katrina Casey, Deputy Secretary, Sector Enablement and Support at the Ministry of Education, says a school does really, ideally, need a pupil or two in order to survive.
Well, I think it is, as you pointed out, quite difficult to keep a school going when there aren't any students, and if there is no prospect of definite enrolments, then we have to look seriously at giving the Minister advice on what the options are. And
what's your sense
one of those
about
options?
What's your sense about the prospect for imminent enrolments?
We're not seeing that that's likely at this point. But even if we were to advise the Minister that we think he should consider a proposal to close, there is still a process that needs to happen after that. So what we've been doing so far is pre any proposal to close. If the Minister agreed or thought that there should be such a proposal, then we would undertake further consultation, and that might allow a bit more time for the community to look at whether or not it was going to have enrolments at that school.
But that's a demographic thing. Either they have the children or they don't, right? I mean, children aren't going to bus in, are they, to Tuturumuri School? They're either in that community or they're not.
Yes, they would have to be in the vicinity of the school, and that's something that they've been looking at, and I understand that the community has been trying to generate quite a bit of interest from amongst its community. They'll also be looking at the youngsters that they've got coming through.
Have they got any coming through?
There are certainly some younger kids, but I think we would want to see from them, some certainty in what they thought was going to be the flow of enrolments. And even then, we still need to make it a call in the best interests of students, families, and of course the taxpayer. But at the end of the day, if there are no students at a school, then at times that decision just needs to be made.
I'm really fascinated by how hard it looks on the surface, like the Ministry has tried here. So if we look at the ERO report of 2011, and then again in 2013, because the 11 one was so bad that they did a 13 one too, and that wasn't very good either. But between 13 and 15, real money was spent and effort was made. Significant areas were identified for review and development. I'm reading here from the 15 ERO report. The school went through a period of significant change. The principal and board members engaged in significant professional development and training. Teachers and students have been involved in design of a refurbished learning space conducive to 21st century learning. The principal continued to establish positive relationships with families and engage the community successfully in the life of the school. ERO was saying that in March 2015. 3 years later, it's empty. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Certainly the school and its community did a magnificent job, as you point out, in those years. parents have more choice these days about where they educate their children and what they expect for their children.
But if they exercise, sorry to interrupt, but if they, and this is the key point, isn't it? If they exercise this choice by sending their children elsewhere, don't they then forfeit the right to say, hey, we need a community school? Isn't, in fact, the most material thing they can do to keep that school going, send their children there?
That would be the advice we would give to every small community that has a declining role and needs to keep, wants to keep, values the school. So that's quite right. There is, from time to time, schools themselves come to us and say they just can't see any prospect of any more students over the next few years. And we would have closed 7 of those very small rural schools last year. So it happens from time to time, generally, and our preference is that the community comes to that decision themselves. And you might be familiar with the Linton Country School near Palmerston North.
We've spoken to them.
Which is one that we were considering towards the end of 2016 for closure, because last year we were expecting there not to be any children. The community did a tremendous job there, and as you've said, pretty much put their kids where their wishes were. And, as of the last roll return, they had 5 children. We won't know until 1st of March what their formal enrolments are for this year, but it can happen. The community can galvanise if it really wants to keep the school retained.
That's Katrina Casey from the Ministry of Education.